I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Yeah, hi guys, Ronnie here from The Truth About Addiction. Today we've got a really incredible guest here, a remarkable man who gives a lot more than what he takes. Today we've got Jeffrey Morgan. Jeffrey's a mental health and wellbeing coach and also just a good human being. Hey Jeff, how are you, mate?
Thanks for having me, Ronnie. I appreciate the intro and look forward to this conversation.
No, I appreciate you coming on, mate. You know that. Wow, Jeffrey, what a story. You've got a fucking great story. You really have,
Appreciate it.
I've done a bit of homework on you. I've known of you since I'm a couple of months older than you. You sort of come around behind me a little bit. And, but I still remember, as kids when you were running amok and when you were, I hate to say it, but I was probably buying gear that was coming down the line somewhere around the track from Smash and Grabs or whatever, But, I know the area you grew up in. As we spoke once before about in 1969, I ended up at what we called our extended family at Mickey Fernandez's place and Ray Penny and Mick Penny's dad, and the corner of Abercrombie and fucking Cleveland Street, when the blocks were the blocks, like no one drove down the streets those days, So
Redfern was a very notorious, Everly Street, Redfern, or the block in general, was very notorious for the wrong reasons. You wouldn't come there. Taxi drivers wouldn't drive there. Police officers wouldn't come down there.
Coppers wouldn't go down there.
Out of their cars. And to give context to how, destructive it was, police would get pulled out of their cars set on fire. They'd run off the opposite direction. And, you got to think about how destructive or tight-knit of a community that would have been to be at that level, to not fear the police at that particular time. And they were pretty brutal at that time in that sort of sense as well. So we were unfortunately a byproduct of that environment. Everything that made me up as that young kid came from those learnings. And that turned me into the person I was at that particular time. Who I am now isn't who I was then. Two totally different people. And 13 years ago, decided to turn my life around, and here we are having this conversation.
Yeah, right. It's incredible. Like as you said, that environment. What I remember of it, all the windows had bars on them. So if the joint caught fire inside, the people inside died because even the fire brigade couldn't get in to get them out.
Absolutely.
The government were trying to take the property back because they wanted the land. They wanted the land, And I just remember all the fights and all the arguments. People would be going like, "Oh, why don't they just give it back?" Well, it's fucking not theirs.
Yeah.
Why don't they just give it back? I was like, mate, you're an idiot. I got family there.
It was set up to, I suppose, group Aboriginal people together, and you had all different communities across Australia that would come together at the block. So you had so many different language groups or Aboriginal people from different areas, Moree, WA, Brisbane, and so forth.
And Melbourne, you had the Koories from there coming up.
Absolutely. You had people from everywhere. And it didn't matter where you came from, you were welcome there. And, as you said, you just couldn't walk down there unless you knew somebody, unless you're part of the some form of crime network or something of that nature. It was just one of those places you couldn't visit. So no one understood that sort of inner sanctum, and hopefully today, by the end of it, we'll give you an idea of what that was like, and then how I transitioned out of those destructive mindset into a constructive mindset, and how that might look for yourself as an individual, no matter where you are in your life. It doesn't have to be around addiction, just in general as a human being. We are creatures of habits. We all have habits and rituals, and if they're destructive towards what's important to yourself within your life, how can you change and create the change that you want to what's important to yourself, and then be proactive and productive around that day in, day out. Whereas, and that, as much as it was destructive when I speak about it, I want you to have, or people that watch this, have context to how much of a struggle it was. And it was an addiction, a crime addiction, a survival addiction, just a lifestyle addiction that meant that we went down this path, and I just thought it was totally normal. No doubt, hearing your story, Ronnie, the addiction component of it, you just don't realise that you're in such a deep hole until you start to say, hey, how can I shift and change this? And I think by about 18-ish, 16, 18, I started to think, all right, just different thoughts. How are people doing different things within life? If they can do it, why can't I do that? I'm successful on this side of things. Let's use the same skill set, qualities, and turn them into real life practices. Yep. And that just took me about 15 years. At about 33, that was it. I just said I'm going this direction, and I wish you all the very best. And I never looked back, and the rest is history, mate. And here we are, traveling the globe, helping people change their habits and rituals, their addictions, their lifestyles, to suit them and guide them through that journey and support them on that, on the way to what's important to himself. I think that's priceless.
What resonates with me is you said you made a decision. It wasn't made for you. No one else could make it. The courts, the prisons, nobody else could make that decision. One morning, you decided, made a decision like, I'm over this. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. There's got to be something better.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, I've spoken about this quite a lot in the healing process of my own journey. If you can have the right role models at the right times in the right environments, you can really shift and change and create change. And as much, I don't think someone said to me at some point, hey, you're going to change your life. Other than obviously when I was in the system. For those that don't know, served 18 years juvenile justice jails, some smaller, bigger sentences throughout that. And that became a huge part of who I was. It just became a part of my DNA. How do I survive? Go out and make money illegally. And then all I started to think about is how can I make that same money, use the same skill set as I said before. And that was an easy transition to myself, but it was up to myself. I had to pull myself up on the enabling bullshit behavior and excuses and all of the above that I'd been using to enable myself to live the lifestyle that I was. And I look back on it now. People would look upon me as someone who was a notorious moneymaker. When I would break it down and I think about the 18 years I spent in custody, how much money could I have made in those 18 years, and how much did I make even in the short periods I was out? Mate, I could have made 10 times more based around what I currently do, and maybe have 18 years behind me might have been 100 times more. And I think if anybody's out there listening to this and you're going through that struggle, you're all unique, and you've all got some skill set that you can apply into your life, and then use the experiences of your life, the character that I was at Redfern and the destructive person. How did I turn those habits and rituals into success for myself, and then pass that on to other people? We work with everyone from school kids through to soldiers, corporate schools, juvenile justice centres, jails, hospitals, health services. And if a kid that's done 18 years of jail, growing up in Everly Street, Redfern, can do something of that nature, and anyone that watches this can do anything. You don't have to endure what I endured. If you've grown up with a great family, but your self-limiting behaviours, thoughts and beliefs are there because of your family telling you you're not good enough or smart enough or whatever it may be, my biggest advice to yourself is do what I did. I just believed in myself.
Yeah.
And down that pathway, and I never stopped. And here we are, and we sit in front of Ronnie today running a global business that people reach out and want to work with on a daily basis. If I can do it, you can do it as well.
Yeah, 100%. I remember, in the 70s, and I was gambling a lot, and I mean a lot. I remember doing so much money to an SP bookmaker.
Yeah,
right, to go and do an armed robbery to go and pay him.
Wow.
I'd punted that much money. I punted about 12 grand.
Wow.
And 12 grand in the 70s was a lot of money, and you have to pay.
Huge.
And I had to pay, and he's an old guy called Georgie Freeman. So you have to pay, So, and I did. I went away and did an armed robbery and blah 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 blah. Cut a long story short, he got paid, and a mate of mine, an older guy, said to me, "Mate, are you an idiot?" And I said, "I must be." And he said, "Well, you're not." He said, "You keep punting." He said, "But you never win." He said, "You know that horse has got a jockey on the back of it pulling it up?" He said, "You know that greyhound's got a drug in it that's slowing it down?" He said, "You've got no control over all that stuff." He said, "If you want to punt," he said, "bet on yourself."
Love that.
And I didn't get it for years. He said, "You need to punt on yourself." He said, "Because you're not going to pull yourself up." So at least you know you're having a go.
I love that. Absolutely.
And I brought that into my life now. I punt on me. The only thing I bet on, I don't buy lottery tickets because I believe I've won lotto.
Yep.
I've already won lotto. Look at my life.
Absolutely, man. to go from where you were to where you are now, amazing story. And for those that don't know Ron, that from my side, please do a bit of research on him. Unbelievable story and background.
Thanks, mate.
Some major stories in amongst that. My father was a huge gambler, Ron. And it was only through uncles and family that told me stories of, Friday afternoon they'd rock around and say, how are you? I'll just grab something they had out of the fridge. They'd open it up. There'd be nothing in it. And he's like, you haven't done shopping yet. He goes, I've got no money left. He's like, what are you talking about? And he goes, I've got my pay and I gambled, I lost it all. And I think as much as I didn't really feel it, to be honest. He always tried to do the good, the right thing, kick a ball in the park, keep me occupied as a kid. And to be honest, I felt like he was a great father. But in the background, no doubt he was always under a heap of stress. He ended up dying from a brain tumour pretty young, considering. And he was pretty healthy at the time too. So I just think he stressed himself out so much. For those 100%. Out there who've got that form of addiction, it's just, it's so destructive to yourself. And as you said, you're hoping that this horse or whatever it is you're betting on comes home. And I promised myself I'd never be that person. Now, I think each to their own, do your own thing. Yeah. But I always say to people, and this is huge, is it a positive or negative in your life? Does it bring you stress or happiness within your life? And that's the sort of principle I work off. If you can put a bet on and you can control and say, I'm going to do $20 a week, I'm going to put some multis on. Some mates do this and they win, some decent money. But that's it. The $20 is it, and they won't go beyond that. I think that's, if you've got that discipline and control, but if you're someone with an addiction, do yourself a favour, just stay away from it. And I think you should be putting that time, energy and effort into the three principles of life, time, energy and effort is yourself as a human being, as Ron said. And if you're stuck on the side of that cliff and you're the only one to pull yourself up, you'll be doing it. And make sure you do it. So invest in yourself.
Bet on yourself, mate. And time, we haven't got time. Everyone keeps thinking, I've got time. We haven't.
It's crazy.
This is it.
Right here, right now. If I can share, not in a Ron, I know you've done a lot of time. I did 18 years. How long did you do, Ronnie?
About similar time, mate.
Yeah, about 18, 36 years between us. If there's one thing I definitely appreciate and I'm grateful for these days, it's time and the ability to make sure that you don't endure the same pain that I did or through our journey. But in your own journey of life, it might be stress, trauma, heartache, pain that you live in for 5 years, 10 years, 18 years like us. And you don't have to end up in jail. Maybe it's because of an addiction, about whether it's foods, whether it's anything of that nature. Please do yourself a favour. Know that you're worth it, but follow your passion and just believe in yourself. Stop getting caught up on what I call the external, everyone outside of you telling you who you are and who you need to be, what clothes you need to wear, how you need to act. Just be yourself. Be all of it. Go down the path of that passion. There's huge opportunities out there within this social media world, I suppose. If that's, I suppose the IT world, the technology advances we've had, gives us a huge opportunity for people to create businesses really quickly, get it out there, and if you're creative, no doubt you can do something. And most of you who go through these types of addictions or things within life have a very creative side, and you open up something different inside your brain once you go down that little pathway. Use that same creativity towards a business and you'll kick ass. And I'll be the first person to support you on that journey, man.
Yeah, and it's true, you and I both know that you only get out of this world what you put into it.
Absolutely.
If you put shit into it, you're going to get shit out of it. If you're giving, you're going to give. Mate, I give back tenfold of what I put in. Absolutely. I think I put a lot in, but geez, I get a lot out, mate. God, I get a lot out. I got friends. I got people like yourself that I can ring up tomorrow and say, mate, I'm coming to Sydney.
Yep.
And you'd say, oh fuck, yeah, quick, come around.
Mate, there's a spare bed in this.
Yeah, I know. You know what I mean?
Mate, anyone, and this is for anyone in my network. I think time is so precious. I get to this point where even on social media we connect with people, but we disconnect with people. And what that means is we add them, we don't interact with them. And I get to a point where I even invite people to our place, come down, you're in Sydney, come, mate, there's a bed there, come stay, have a conversation, have a coffee. Mate, you do your thing, but we might have breakfast together while you're sitting here, go out and explore Sydney. And I think, huge opportunity, social media these days, and in general, dog in the background running them up.
That's good.
But get out and connect with people. There's so much potential to connect, and that by doing so, we become so diverse and we learn so much. Ronnie's an absolute book of knowledge, a library as such, and I love sitting down with someone and learning from somebody. We've all got something to teach, no matter how young or old you may be. You know something that we don't, and if we share that with one another, as a proud Aboriginal man, knowledge sharing is how our cultures survived for so long. Do the same thing. Teach someone within your network so that their net worth then goes through the roof. And I don't mean on a financial level, I just mean on an education and knowledge level. And that's part. And if it leads to financial gain, beautiful. But to be able to share that, it's just a priceless journey. Look, this little bad boy trying to bomb.
He's grouse. I love him. It's one of my cats not in there. It's one of my cats not in there screaming at me, But I'm really glad you touched on the Aboriginal part of it. That's, to me, that's, I'm not Aboriginal, but am I?
Yeah.
I'm very connected with the Aboriginal people. I go up to Arnhem Land, I go up to Far North Queensland, I go to the Aboriginal communities, and they they call me Yapipi, which just means uncle, and when I go there, I don't feel different. I don't see a colour, but I grew up with Aboriginal people,
I'm the same.
I boxed my whole life. Who were boxers? Poor kids and Aboriginal kids. Why? Because we're all poor. And why I think, and I say this to you, and I say this sincerely and out of a place of love and care, you give so much because you had so little.
Absolutely.
Not because you've got plenty.
You just realise that, you realise what people endure. And I think the last 2 years was a way of people understanding a couple of things. How the isolation that Aboriginal people felt over time, even though we live in a country with so many people, the isolation for Aboriginal people, just not having support there. And a lot of people came around on that because they started to have that time and be able to, obviously tap into the knowledge, their data, their education, the stuff that they could access in this day and age. I think that's a priceless journey for anybody. And to be able to understand, seeking to understand, is a way that allows you to get the most out of any sort of situation within life, whether it's around nutrition, business, relationships, or whatever. And the same principle applies to Aboriginal people. There's enough data out there. And as you said before, I'm not here to push, Aboriginal people are better than anyone else. We're all human beings, and the best race, I've always said this, is the human race when we all get on.
Exactly.
My mother taught me how to treat people in the sense of respect, kindness, love, and empathy, right? It always broke her heart when I went down the path of survival. They were dealing with their own traumas at that point in time, my parents, and I think, I have no ill will towards them. As a young kid, you think that they abandoned you, but they were just doing their absolute best with what they had. And unfortunately, I went down a destructive path and didn't listen to the respect side of things, the love side of things to other people. And I know it broke her heart. She never got to see me come good. She died when I was in jail. My father died whilst I was in jail, and coming home, I ended up with a TV show, and obviously we work across the globe, and to be able to show some of these clients, which I can't even talk about because it's been something that we've been able to build to over a period of time. But even these corporate clients, I just know my parents would have been so proud, and then the Aboriginal communities that we go into, and but going back to that whole conversation, it all comes down to. We're all human beings. And as you know, in a prison yard, man, if you didn't treat another human being right, you found out really quickly, what that went like. And sometimes, I wish society was like that because it would make people, you'd zip your mouth, right? Because in the nicest way, talk shit, get hit was the mentality. So I think society, if we had that, people wouldn't open their mouth as much around trying to divide different races or nationalities. We're all human beings. And I don't see, I'm like you, I don't see no colour. I just see how you treat me. Are you respectful? Do you have that love within yourself? Are you showing empathy to a situation, seeking to understand? Because that's what I do.
Yep.
And then I'll do some due diligence on the background. Is this person trying to ride me or whatever it may be? For now, I take their word for it. Go and do a bit of due diligence, come back, hey, this is great conversation, or you know what, you're pushing a bit of an agenda and there's enough data and evidence and all of the above in the background. I'm going to step away from yourself. And I think that's something I'd pass on as a tip to people. Make sure you do due diligence in life. I do a life plan with my clients, like a business plan almost, around your whole life, dude. And how many of us do it? We know that 99.9% of people that come through our program don't do it. Because we just go through life and, now we get a job, now we go to school, now we go to uni, now we get a partner, have kids, have the house. And that's technically the program, right? But what is it for yourself that you want to get out of life? And, being very distinct and having total clarity around that direction gives you a smoother pathway. I'm not going to say it's going to be absolutely smooth. Roadblocks, obstacles, fears, all of the above, right? But in general, at least, you've got your GPS on, you're going from A to B from when you're born until you're dead, and you're always working towards what's important to yourself. But if you don't write out that life plan, you get caught up in amongst some other stuff. No lack of direction. It's like you drive up one street,
Exactly.
do a U-turn. We'll go here. No, that's not it. We go back there. Wait, was that 26? No, reverse back. No, we're in the wrong street, and it just becomes very stressful life.
Fuck yeah.
Find yourself some clarity, and then you have some purpose behind every action that you take, and you create a really intentional life and a more predictable one for yourself.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I say it all the time. If you haven't got a destination, you're fucking lost.
Absolutely.
Where are you going?
No.
If you haven't got a destination, where are you going?
You wake up out of this without a vision, a purpose, a why. A vision's what you think. You might have a great business idea. You might have the kids and the family in your head. You might want to be an athlete. You might want to be a CEO. I don't know what it is, but if you don't take that vision out of your head, drop it down on paper, and start to journal that, what's it look like? Reverse engineer it. So to be a CEO, what do I need to do? Leadership skills,
action,
X, Y, and Z, right? And the actions then need to start to take place. But we sort of wake up. A lot of people in this day and age, I think it's this technology. We get caught up on technology and we forget about us.
Yes.
We think we're in us, scrolling and liking and commenting. Oh, so I'm posting this, I'm going to post that. Hope I get likes, views, and all of the above. And we forget to live for ourselves. Sometimes it might be just walking your doggy down the beach, watching the sun come up. Sometimes,
what brings you joy?
Yeah.
What brings you joy? That's what I always say to people. What brings you joy?
1,000,000%.
If you haven't got joy, I was talking to a 17.5-year-old kid this morning. He's one of my clients. I said, what do you want to be? He goes, I don't know. I said, well, mate, in the next 24 hours, I want you to think about what you'd like to be. Not that you believe you can be it, but just give me a whole list of things that you. And he's got some injuries. I can't do sport. I used to play. I said, well, why can't you teach people how to play sport? If you were so good at it, why can't we teach? There's ways around it. You just got to have someone to direct you. You just have some direction so that you can both work together and find an equilibrium. This is the direction I'm going to take.
Absolutely.
If I'm lost, my whole life, my girlfriend would say, ask someone where the street is. And I go, fuck, I'm not asking nobody nothing. And I was doing the same, go back past, is that 26 back? And all I do is say to somebody, mate, where's 26? He goes, oh, it's over there, brother.
Yeah.
But I would never ask. Today I can say, mate, can you please tell me where number 26 is?
Absolutely.
And sometimes they say, mate, you parked at the front of it. And I go, thank you.
Yeah. And I think it's this society. And it's changed. It's definitely changed from the willingness to seek guidance, the direction. People that, as a kid, I wanted to be an Air Force pilot. Top Gun was out at the time, to be honest, with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, cool.
Thing, and I unfortunately got myself into some trouble prior to that. Went in, sat the test and all, and then they found out and said, mate, you can't.
Criminal convictions, can't join.
The rest was history, and I went down a destructive path. But in general, at least I had some sort of thought process in my head. And then when I didn't, what happened, I went into just like, I'm going to roll into survival. And survival was everything we just spoke about, those dead-end streets and all these lessons, obstacles, roadblocks, journeys of life that built me who I am. And look, I wouldn't be who I am today without all that. I guarantee that. But at the same time, someone asked, would you change the 18 years and take in the knowledge of him just growing up in the area? And I'd say, yeah, I would. I absolutely would, because I think I would have still been some form of person around what I'm doing now, the mental health and wellbeing side. And I would have had total clarity in the direction. And I'm like yourself, we ask these kids, what makes you happy? Or even breaking it down to a smaller version of, just themselves. And they can't tell me. Right, is it PlayStation? Oh, yeah. And it's like you're asking them, a sort of algebra question. A over B divided by Z. Yeah. And they literally sit there and they freeze up, and it blows me away that kids don't know the direction they want. What makes them happy? We ask them, what's your quality of life or your health look like? What's the best? Do you want to play sport? Do you want to represent the country? Do you just want to have fun playing sport, or do you want to keep yourself fit? What's your success look like? Same thing. They can't tell you. They just got no direction. I think just role modeling wise, this principle of going to school, going to uni, and going into a job, sort of gives. I've looked at this model over and over, and I'm not saying knowledge is power. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's some model that needs to come in to really highlight the potential. The world's changed from way back then to way back now, and I had this conversation as well. 9 to 5 job was from way back when. We can do a lot of 9 to 5 stuff in a heartbeat these days with the internet, social media, and all of the above. So things that used to take time, even the travel time. As such, we'd be traveling to different spots because we didn't have these, Zoom meetings as an example to knock something out. In this day and age, we have huge potential to save a lot of time. And even now, we're still heading down a path of we don't have enough time. So gaining clarity around anything for anybody watching this will save you so much time, energy, and effort towards anything that you put your time, energy, and effort into in life. And don't be the person that gets lost. Don't be the young kid or the young version of myself or Ron that went down a path of, I'm going to find out what happens down this path. And 18 years later, I've had to learn the lessons of life to really shift and change who I became. So I'd rather spend 18 years on my own business, around my own passion, around my own likes and loves of life. And I can guarantee you on the flip side of that, you're going to find a very happy version of yourself. And what's your happiness look like? Here's a question I'll ask everybody that watches this. What does your perfect life look like? What are you currently living? And this is what normally happens, because I know we've dealt with nearly 500,000 people the last couple of years. And this is what it looks like. Perfect life's here. Here's what they're currently living. And what are the steps that we need to take to then make that happen by taking it out of here and then dropping it down on paper and then creating the actions to create the reactions you want within your life. And it's a simple little version, but as we said, whether it's kids or corporates, people sit there like stunned mullets, and it's because we just go, I go to school, then I go to uni, and now I've got that job. And a lot of the times people start out in a job where they're paying their bills, and then they get caught up saying, oh, this pays my bills, I don't want to leave, I'm so fearful. And it's in a field or a realm that they didn't even study at uni. So many people down that pathway, and even on the pathway of relationships, very relatable. They stay in a relationship they're not happy in. They stay in a workplace they're not happy in because of the fear of everything else, outside of my family's going to judge me, society's going to judge me, I should be this based on social media, X, Y, and Z. And if you do all of these things where you're living for everybody else, the external of yourself, you'll never tap into the best version of yourself. Pause for a moment, write out your life plan. What's your perfect life look like? Is it the mansion Lamborghini? Is it just having a house that you can come home to, roof over your head, be grateful for the warm clothes that you have on yourself, and you walking your doggy early in the morning and have enough money in your bank to have food? It needs to be determined. what it looks like, and then start to create those actions, as I said, and make them a daily habit and ritual until it becomes a huge part of your normal software, and then add things to that on a regular basis. Because if you've already got this structure and you just live it, you sort of get into this program yourself. How can you then, once I've got this level of life, what can I add more onto that level of life, and then the next level, and so forth. And each year I'm trying to strive towards something new, and that then leaves you no time to think about things that might send you down a path of destruction. I'm going to get here, I'm going to dabble there, I'm going to do this, and whether it's any form of addiction or anything of that nature, and you've got that personality, it'll just drive you down that pathway. If you've got a personality of that nature and you put it into yourself in your life, you're going to find huge success out of that.
What you're saying with, when you said, what does your perfect life look like? I'm so blessed. You know what my head went? I'm living it.
Love that. Absolutely love it.
And so, you know what? My brain is so fucked still. I felt guilty for a moment and I didn't want to say it. Because self-worth becomes involved. You're not worthy. You're a horrible cunt. You grew up in prisons. You're a fucking thief. You're a gangster. But the reality is I don't believe any of that for a moment. But for that split second, my brain went, what's your perfect life look like?
Yeah.
Where are you at? And I'm here with it.
Yeah.
And then that disease, I call the disease thinking, the fucking pedophile that lives up here, went, you don't deserve that.
Yeah.
Then I had to go, shut up, go away.
It's a huge conversation. How many other people, that watch this feel that way? Many of us, right? And I got into the thing, self-love is not selfish. And it's very important to live your perfect life. Know what that looks like. Do it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And really tap into it every single day. And as I said, you can't tap into that when you get out of your bed and be intentional if you don't know what it looks like.
100%.
The type of house you live in, the type of bed I sleep in, the type of car I drive, the way I want to conduct myself, everything about every component of my life I've tapped into, and that's huge. This is what we do as a program, because people, we just go, oh, I'll buy this, I'll buy that. Cheap bed. Think about how long you spend in a bed.
Yep.
Just don't think about how long we spend our lives in a bed. And I went out and bought something that it was actually funny. I found we stayed at a nice hotel one time. I was like, this is like sleeping on a cloud. And I went away and I said, that was so good. Actually, I'm going to ring the hotel and find out what it was. Found out the base, the mattress, the sheets, the whole lot. So I bought the whole thing, and I literally sat and I was like, this is heaven. And I think that's the depth that we don't go to in life around creating the perfect life for ourselves. And as I said, it doesn't have to be a Lamborghini. You might like a Datsun 121 and you like the old school car, but you just want it more well maintained. If you're not doing that, but that's what you want in your life, then I call it you're existing rather than living. And I think once you tap into the best version of yourself around that, that's a 120Y. You want a particular dog that's a character, or you want one that's sort of a calmer nature because you're a calm person yourself. You're not listening to heavy metal music because you're that calm person. All these different components of your life. Are you very intentional around those things? Because once you do that, as I said, the intentional living means that you usually distract yourself. Not distracted. You're doing things that are proactive and productive around what's important to yourself, and you don't have time to let your mind think or sink. And once you put yourself in that little realm of, the best way of putting it is your own house of hope. You want to be in your own house of hope around what your version of life, and you want that house of success, that house of quality of life, the house of happiness. That's what you should be thinking about. Ask yourself the question, are you living your perfect life? And be relentless and be unapologetic to anybody. Say me, I should say unfucking apologetic to anybody that wants you to live a different way. It's your life. And so many people sit in judgment. As long as I'm not impacting Ron or anybody else within my realm, if I want to have no hair, pink hair, white hair, who cares? It's your life. Live it your way. Don't get caught up in the external and focus on the internal.
Exactly, mate. Just touching on that one, Jeffrey, what you said then is what life's about, internal. Life's about internal. Like I told you, I got a story. When I was 16 years clean, before I got arrested this time, I was laying in a multi-million-dollar waterfront mansion. I had the the customary 4-car garage outside full of sports cars and race car and the big boat out the back. This is a true story. It was Boxing Day, 2001.
Yeah.
I was laying in bed and I thought, I don't give a fuck if I wake up tomorrow. I had a beautiful wife, I had a 6-year-old child, and I was laying in bed thinking, I don't give a fuck. I got pinched a few months later. I went back to jail, got 18 years, went back to jail and served 8 years. And in that 8 years, every single day, I was grateful that I had a bed in jail. Wow. I had a switch. There was a change. The change was me. I became grateful.
Love that.
Because I'd lost everything. So I had to become grateful for something. And I was grateful that I had breath. And I went back to doing yoga, went back to helping people, spent the whole 8 years helping people in prison try to get clean. That's all I did was help people.
Love that.
7 days a week, 24 hours a day. My mind, my concentration was on helping others and not on self-pity and self-wallow, which most people do in prison. What I've lost was what I'd gained. I'd gained so much.
Powerful.
And it's the greatest gift I've been given. It sounds funny. What's the best thing you've been given? I got 18 years.
Yeah.
Fucking great. Didn't feel like it when the judge said it. And I went downstairs and was like, "Ooh, that's a bit tough." Actually, if you read my depositions, it's on the internet. It says exactly the words I said when the judge said 18 years. I went, fucking bit tough. And the court started sniggling, like, what else am I going to say? I thought it was a bit tough. It was the biggest sentence in history at that stage for my crime.
Crazy.
But I got so much out of it because I did what you always say. I took care of the moment. I made the best of it, and I focused on what I had, not what I didn't have. And absolutely. I made the best of a bad situation, and fucking was due diligent, and I was focused.
Love that.
I focused on getting out of jail alive, because as we both know, there's no guarantee you're going to get out of jail alive.
1,000,000%.
There's no guarantee you're ever going to get out of jail either, because I'm not going to let people do stuff to me in jail. I'm not going to be stood over. I'm not going to be fucking treated like a doormat. So if it came that you're going to have to do something to survive, because survival mode is our go-to, I will do anything to survive. I'm a survivor.
Everyone did what they had to do, and it's just one of those places. I think your mentality creates a better reality. It's one of my favourite sayings, right?
Yes, it's 100%.
You're in an environment, and we can beat up on ourselves. And I always say this to I've got to a point now, similar to yourself, where that little thing comes into your head. I've got to a point now where I've never made a mistake in my life. They're like, oh, that's bullshit. Everyone makes mistakes. And I said, no. I always look at a positive or negative conversation, right? Change your language to change the outcome. Long story short, we tell Piglet, and we had all these secret code languages, trying to talk on the phone. Then, and we talked this Piglet, and we then really mumbled it up, so you couldn't. It was mishmashed, and only our crew would understand it, right? Yeah. It was just absolute. Long story short, one day, a bloke I'd been locked up with, who was a CFO for a big bank, misappropriated funds, lived a normal life, just took some money out, built a big property investment, put the money back, but at the time got himself in some trouble. I'd hung around him quite a while in jail, and he said, mate, what's your intentions when you got home? He said, I want to change my life, and here's what I want to do. And the thing, he came out and said, can I give you some advice? Obviously, he didn't want to offend me and get himself in some trouble. I was like, yeah, man, I'm always open to anything. One day we walk, the idea, before this happened, he was walking across the yard and he's like, SJ, Jeffra, Morgs, FJ, and he started talking in Piglet, his version, best version. I was like, no, mate, don't do that. He was a real corporate type of guy. Long story short, I was like, no, mate, no, don't stop, just stop. And he said, see how stupid I look? That's you on a corporate stage. If you talk like the way that I was gonna, shoulda, coulda, every swear word in between all of that. It's a pig mixed in, and mate, and he said, so my advice is to change your language. And it's a module of the habits in which it was programmed, because we all speak a particular language to ourselves. Yep. We just heard Ron say, a little voice in his head came in that told him he wasn't good enough. We've all been in that spot. And I get into a slot now where it's about positive reinforcement, talk to myself. And even if I say something that isn't positive, I'll pause and I'll rewire that sentence right there, right then. because
100%.
our brain will only hear what we tell it. So if I'm feeding it negativity, it's going to buy into it, and it's going to say you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not strong enough, smart enough, whatever it is that you've told yourself, and other people have fed your brain as well. And I got to a point, imagine how many people would have told me, you're never going to amount to anything, you're a bank robber, you do X, Y, and Z, you're locked up, you're from Redfern, and all of the above. We had bad media around there, which was totally understandable. But at the time, if I listen and took all that in, I wouldn't be who I am today. And to work with, some of these people reaching out to do leadership programs, you got to imagine the content. So I sit there, and my head goes, "Fuck, are you joking? You sure you can deal with these corporates or people?" And the old voice will come into my head, but I change the language to change the outcome. You're a leader when you were back then, and you're a leader now.
Yep.
All these the values, the qualities, and the skill set that you've got to then transition into this world. And the best way to break that down is each human is a human of habits and rituals. We're creatures of habit. What are your habits at this current state? Where is your perfect life? Are you working in the corporate world? Are you the CEO? You want to be the CEO, but you're at management level. What do you need to do to take the steps to create the actions and reactions you want within your life? And then we just make sure that we tap into that every single day. And we enjoy the journey, and we enjoy the gratitude of the journey as well, similar to what you spoke about before, Ronnie, gratitude, attitude. When you tap into your being grateful for what you have rather than what you don't have, your brain acts and functions in a particular way that means that everything else external, what you don't have, when you get that, whether it's a nice car, new shoes, a holiday, or experience of life, anything, of that, kids, new house, whatever it may be, the abundance goes right through the roof, and it's almost like you've won, $50 million in the lottery, if that was important to yourself, or had 10 kids because they mean the world to yourself. The abundance takes that experience to a whole new level. Whereas if you get into a position, you might see this, and I've seen this video on social media. It was quite funny the other day, of a young girl who expected a Mercedes for her first car from her parent, and she wasn't happy with the Mercedes C-Class. She wanted a particular model, and it's just because we get to this point in this society where we're not grateful. Man, like we were just talking before, me and Ronnie, before this, about Sri Lanka. And this person I recently helped out who cooks still for wood on the fire, like they put wood under the thing to stoke the food up. And I'm just grateful to be, and this is for everybody. Be grateful for what you have and the lessons of life it's taught you, because there's no mistakes. Taking you back to that conversation, there's no mistakes when you learn a lesson.
Lesson learned.
You grow and prosper, which means that you've moved forward, and you can say, "Fuck, I'm never going back to that lesson because it taught me something." And so many of us in relationships, as an example, because people can understand it, red flag after red flag, and you've already been through the red flags in the last one, but you step back into it. Same principle about me and Ronnie stepping back in the crime. We knew the circumstances around it. Pause for a moment, really think about, is this a positive or negative for myself? Is it a happy conversation or a sad conversation? And you're going to start to find out straight away, what, I've done a bit of due diligence. And before I step in, this quick money I'm going to make with this bloke, like Ronnie was talking about, can cost you 18 years. Yeah. And, I've been home 13 years now. It's easy to say, fuck, I could do one thing and I'll just get this money and I'll settle myself. And I could do 20 years on the back end of it. Yeah. Is it worth it? So as soon as my little brain tries to trigger, I've stopped that and I'll put it, changing the language, change the outcome.
I love that.
In there, and try it yourself. Let me know how you go. Yeah. Write out 3 things that you're grateful for every single day, even if it's morning, preferably in the morning. And try and write out 3 different things, not your family, friends, and something on your dog every day. I want you to think about your shirt, maybe the design on your shirt. How the world's so creative. Look at all that background. There's so many people doing so many different things. And same thing when you get a new pillow. How good is that? And then here's a tip on the back end of that last one. Think about how you can, especially in a relationship, how you can go back to the first month of that relationship and the fireworks that were going off, make that happen day in, day out, 10 years later, 20 years later. and watch how strong your relationship is in its nature, or whether that's in a workplace or space or any environment in general. Go back to the first month when you were like, fuck, look at this brand new car. We go, how good is it? 2 years later, people are like, oh, fuck, this car's shit. I need to get a new car, and we don't appreciate it still. You look at the car in the background for yourself, Ronnie. You want to jump in, and every time you start that engine, remember how good you felt on day one. Be grateful you still got it, whether it's 5 years later, and how good it's been to yourself and how it served you. And the abundance of gratitude goes through the roof, and your life will do the same.
And I believe personally that's the greatest gift you can give to yourself, to be grateful. I start my day every single morning. I breathe.
Yeah.
My gratitude list.
Love
then I have a daily reading I do.
Love it.
Then I usually get on the bike, ride for 40 minutes.
That's
my day. Then I start doing what I have to do. Then I start working with clients. That every one of my clients, because I do all one-on-one stuff at the moment, has to send me 5 things they're grateful for every morning.
Love it.
And the demand they work on. They have to work on demands with me. I have 8 demands.
Yeah.
Honesty, openness, acceptance, reliability, congruence, thoroughness, consistency, respect, and honesty.
Love that.
And then at the bottom of it, I have action. I send them a piece of paper that's typed on it. It says action. I take the I out of the middle and I act on these demands 100% to the best of my ability. And every day they've got to say to me, I'm working on openness. And I say, okay, what have you been open about today? Have you told your partner that what's going on with you? Have you had an open mind to listen to what other people say?
Love that. Absolutely.
That's the little thing I do with every client. I have to do it because they need to learn those principles. Those principles are the principles to trust.
Absolutely love it. I'll do it really quickly without hopefully everyone seeing.
Yeah.
But the morning gratitude.
Yes.
So it's obviously that's
funny,
my group. We've got
that's funny. I can't find my phone because it's exactly the same. I have a great meetings list every morning that they've got to be grateful for.
Every morning they've got to send 3 things they're grateful for. And it does it. Why is your brain in a specific way to then be super abundant in what you then receive in life?
Yeah, mate.
And that's for free. Like, we don't need to pay for a subscription. It's just you and you alone and what you're grateful for. And it could be totally, I might like a car, I don't know, something different, right? Sporting team. You might like a cat and sewing. But if we're not tapping into what's important to yourself and that appreciation, we'll always look at what we don't have. Oh, I wish I had what Ron's got. That car's so good. And you live in envy and you live in the external. Everything you don't have. Oh, fuck, my life's not good enough. Mate, there's so many people.
It's sad. It's so sad.
As you know, even in jail, I'll give you, Spanian, who talks about this quite a lot. He spoke about, they said, did you have any remorse? And he was talking about the time that he served. He goes, look, I've served my time. And this is a huge conversation. A lot of people will mix up the context to his thing and say, oh, you should have more remorse. He served 13 years, I think he said. And he said, as you know, it's so harsh in there. It teaches you so many things. There's so much of that sticks with you throughout life. Could he and would he have exchanged that to know and been role model better as a younger kid? Fucking oath, and so would have I, and I'm sure Ron would have as well. I'm not blaming my parents or, I don't know.
It is what it is.
But in general, I think if we could exchange those years and put back into the community now what we know and the skill set that we had back then, we would have done it way back when. And that gratitude attitude is huge for yourselves. Understand there's people that don't get that same role modeling sometimes. They don't get that kick up in life to start it off. And even if you're on a good side, meaning you've had everything, you can still be grateful. Don't get caught up in the attitude of, I need that Mercedes isn't the model I want. I want this one up here. Maybe go out and work hard for it, but be grateful. Exactly. Every time you start the car, the fuel of the lever, the emotion attached to that car, the electric windows instead of rolling them down, whatever it is. We're talking about old age things from the other day. Back in the 80s versus now, and the brick phones. Our phones are not talking. So this is
a small one.
Right? It was like this. It was so big, and you'd have to charge them on this thing in the middle of the car.
You'd beat someone to death with it. I had a big one like that. It was that big.
Yeah.
Had a strap on it. You had to get someone to carry the fucking thing.
That was the one, right? So, like, and we get these phones. Oh, this is a shit phone. It doesn't take. This is what happens with us as a society. I get this phone. The next phone comes out and goes, oh, shit, my phone's not as good as yours.
I need the 13.
Yeah, I need the 13. I'm like, you don't need anything. You just got to be grateful for what you do have.
Yeah.
Then you start to become abundant in how your thought process and your life actually rolls out for you in front of you. And we live a good life here in Australia. And for those overseas, if you're not living, or anywhere, you're not living a good life because you're not living your perfect life, start to roll into that every single day and be grateful in the journey for the lessons you have. Just make sure that every day is intentional when you get out of bed. Stop just guessing your way through and finding these dead ends, roadblocks, and obstacles for yourself, because that's a dark journey. No one would sail out the sea from Australia to New Zealand without a map and you've never sailed before. You are asking for disaster and disaster to come into your life. No one wants stress, trauma, heartache, pain. The boat starts to sink. You're in the middle of the sea. You're not probably.
I should have learned to swim.
Yeah, exactly. So
I wish I'd learned to swim.
I wish I had the GPS, I had food, I had the proper flotation, maybe an emergency things.
Blah, 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 blah.
And this is how deep we should be thinking around each component of life. And what's your life? I promise you this. Go to an abundant level that you never thought possible. And as Ron said, you get to this point, I was laying back similar to himself and saying, pretty happy. Look, I've got some things I've still got to sort out from the past that come back, financials, victims comp, which I'm happy to pay, and I'm near the end of that as an example.
That'd be a relief.
They're right near the end, and just stuff like that. Once that's all gone, I'm taking the steps towards that perfect life, so I'm really happy and content. If I let that fester, that would have beaten the shit out of me, and live in your own happiness. Find what it is, and
you triggered something for a minute there, Jeffrey. I'll just bring up when I was in Sri Lanka 35 years ago, it was in the middle of civil war. Wow. And the Tamil Tigers, they were killing each other. There was dead people at the front of the place where I was staying in Hikkaduwa.
Wow.
They killed the coppers had killed a couple of Tamil Tigers. And
back in, I think.
There was kids with a rag rolled up with rags inside of it playing soccer.
Love it.
Mate, I swear on my mother, this is 35 years ago, I still remember it like it was yesterday. They were so happy.
Absolutely.
And I thought, how the hell, because I had kids at that stage who were about the similar age, ungrateful little shits with the rollerblades and living in Bondi Beach and everything else. And these kids that had nothing, no shoes, pair of shorts on. It was the only clothing they had on them. And, mate, they were so happy. And I thought, wow, this is what life is. This is what life is.
Absolutely.
Being grateful for what you've got, not for what you haven't got.
Redfern was like that. We played football. We didn't have we had a small grass area near the top. And, we'd play there, but we'd take it out onto the concrete. We'd play tackle. We'd graze up.
Yeah.
And laugh. We loved it. Who's playing? Yeah, we're in. No one said, oh, no, it's going to scrape you. We were all in, and we'd go back. We'd already have grazes, and we'd go back and play again and again. Yeah. And everyone loved it.
And I loved it. I loved that stuff.
It was seen as destructive. There's so much constructive happiness, I suppose, by just being grateful for what we had, the space that, because we felt the same thing. We couldn't go out of the community without getting the police, bashing us or something of that nature.
Well, really, you couldn't get past the gardens up the top of Cleveland Street there. We didn't walk over to Glebe. Not when I was there. We didn't go to Glebe, mate.
You'd sneak over to Glebe or Waterloo. That was and the same thing.
Break into something.
You'd be off on foot, and that's how full on it was, And to have a young kid and said in that manner, but as going back to this whole conversation, we just were grateful to be able to play football in a small area. It wasn't a beautiful manicured pitch.
Yeah.
The times, the fun we had because we just enjoyed each other's company and playing football or sport, doing something we loved, turned into something that, obviously helped our happiness in a lot of, in a time there was a lot of darkness as a kid. And I think, to have fear of walking out of your own community as a 14-year-old kid and being picked up and bashed by police or or whatever it may be, and some, no doubt, the intel or the people within the area, we created that environment for the police, and it's just, you look back, it's crazy. So be grateful for what you do have, and stop focusing on what you don't, because you'll never. If you focus on what Ronnie's got or I got or that next person's got, you'll never win, and you'll always be. It's great to be always striving towards your own happiness, but not somebody else's.
Yeah, 100%.
I need to get that. They got the new Lamborghini. I'm going to get that. Like, it's be yourself.
I call it judging your insides by people's outsides.
I love that. And
I was laying in that waterfront property hoping to die. Everyone across the road was thinking, fuck, look at this guy. He's got it all.
Yeah, loving life. And, I seen something on social media, and it's so true. If you knew how quickly people would forget you when you died, stop trying to impress everybody else.
Exactly.
And it's so true. Like, I've been at funerals and I've been devastated, whether it was my sister brother who committed suicide, another brother from a preventable health issue. I go to their grave sites and it's just like, you can tell it's abandoned. I'm the one that's cleaning it up. No one goes out there. And, people just forget. And we've got to live for ourselves and stop worrying about what fucking others think. Because you're 100%. Crazy. These people, as soon as you leave, they're just going to forget you were even there. And it's just it's the reality of the world and life, man. Once you tap into your best version of yourself, your vibe will attract your tribe and the right people in your inner circle, and I call it your inner circle, the 5% of people in your life that you really share your nitty-gritty stuff with. That's who are going to matter. They're the ones that are going. I'm going to share a story on social media soon. It's called "The Four Wives and the King and His Four Wives," and it's all about life and how we perceive things of what truly happens. So keep an eye out for it. If it helps in any way, shape, or form, drop a comment, because we want people to realise life's about yourself and the happiness that you want from your life, not about everybody else.
And anybody who's watching this and listens to this, please follow Jeffrey up. Check him out. He's an incredibly, talented man, but he's also a very loving person, which to me shows by his actions. Because we can all talk words. It's actions that impress me, and his actions. And I get excited having Jeffrey as a friend, having now have relationship with him where, like when we're kids, we're all doing the same thing. And we're doing the same thing today. We're trying to help people. We're trying to carry a message, And my motivation, I'm sure Jeffrey's is to carry the message so that somebody else doesn't have to suffer the way we suffered, and we did suffer. Don't worry about that. It's not all, unicorns farting bubbles. We had a shit life. It was disgusting, and we got through it. So you can too.
And when I don't ever get it twisted that I sit here and I hope they feel sorry for me. Just saying that lifestyle ain't glorious life. People, sometimes get into that world thinking, oh, you're driving this car, living in the houses, having those cars that Ron had. But the amount of years that you spend in custody and the trauma in that you take home with yourself, little, different components of life that you wouldn't think about, we still think about. You're out and you're thinking, you sit in a particular way in a restaurant to make sure you're facing the door. There's different things that no one would ever think about, but we do as human beings. So please, don't think of glorifying anything or think
not for 1 second.
It's something we're sharing knowledge. My grandmother, I've shared this on many podcasts, was dying from emphysema. I'm sitting there, she said, mate, you don't look happy today. What's wrong, son? Oh, you're leaving this planet. She goes, I'll never leave this planet. And I was like, how do you figure that, And she said, son, I've taught you so much knowledge, and I know you've taken it on because you've already applied it into your life. And when you pass that on, and I've shared that in this podcast, some of these learnings to, let's say, yourself or any of these watchers, my spirit will forever walk this planet. They'll pass it to their kids and so forth. And I think as a proud Aboriginal man, something that I always had in the back of my head, my grandmother talking to me. She was a huge influence, kicking my ass, trying to get me into the right way of life, grabbing me, dragging me down to school on the days that I didn't want to go on. I think, if I can share anything, please share the knowledge, the unique person that you are, each one of us has something to give to other people within their life, and your spirit will forever walk this planet in the knowledge you share with your inner circle and those that you then obviously operate with outside of that. As a business, we share those habits and rituals so people live a healthier, happier, and more successful life in a proactive, productive, and positive way. And, mate, if we've done that for you in any way, shape, or form today, then I've left my grandmother's spirit within yourself, and that, it's priceless.
Beautiful.
That's worth to be able to share some family love, knowledge, and experience to somebody else. So, mate, it's just to me, that's something I live by now, and her spirit will forever live on within myself.
I believe we're the blessed. We are the blessed.
Absolutely, man. Like, just to be born on this planet, I think that. Don't quote me. I'm pretty sure it's 47 trillion in one chance. So if you got on this planet and you think, oh, my life's shit, I've made a mistake, I've failed. Firstly, you don't fail till you give up. Secondly, every mistake in your eyes, change your language to change your outcome. What's the lesson I've learned out of this situation experience so I grow and prosper? And lastly, it's about yourself growing as an individual. Don't sit there and wallow in what's in your invisible backpack. We've all made decisions that we've learned and grown from. Unpack that invisible backpack. Give me the lessons out of this situation, that situation, no matter how deep or traumatic or long you've been in that addiction. And think to yourself, what can I learn out of this situation that can help me grow as an individual? And organically, you'll help other people. We always try and put so much in. I'm going to help them, this person, that person, and the other person. If you help yourself and you are the greatest version of yourself, people will organically learn and grow just from your actions. As Ron said before, I'm huge. My word is my bond is something that I now live by. And I want to pass that on to people. The more you tap in and tell yourself something and stick to something that you've told yourself, the more you build your self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, self-care. And what do you reckon is going to happen on the back end of that? You're going to charge your internal charger as a person or human being to 100%. And every single day you're going to roll out knowing that you're tapping into your happiness, success, quality of life around what's important to you. And you've got a bit of gratitude, attitude behind that, and everything's abundant. And like Ron spoke about before, I am living my perfect life right here, right now. The girl I've got, the dog I've got, the car I drive, the house we live in, the suburb we're in. I was very intentional. I was thinking about when, I travel quite a lot. I'm close to expressways. I'm close to the airport. 2 beautiful pools, 400 square meter gym downstairs, Instagrammable gym because I film workout videos. All these components, I'm very intentional in my life and living. And I can't tell you how important that is for you as an individual to walk into your environment, whether it's a nightclub, cafe that you like. This person makes the coffee the best way, this person doesn't. Would you go down to the coffee place that makes you a shit coffee the next day? You wouldn't do it. You go back to the person who you love getting your coffee off, right? Or the food that you love eating, or what about that holiday location? Let's go back to that same place because that makes you feel a particular way. Make sure your life is always about the emotions that are attached to the happiness that you want within your life. And then, you don't want to go to a place that's going to make you sad, angry, bitter, or something of that nature. Tap into those emotions day in, day out, and watch your life go to a whole new level, man. And it's just, to me, it was a no-brainer, but for whatever reason, I feel like society's just lost a lot of its common sense. And sit down and pause for a moment and think about the direction you want to get within your life, and make sure every step that comes out of that bed every single morning is intentional around the person you want to be, and be a person of your word. Make your word your bond.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, mate. Jeffrey, thank you very much, mate, for sharing your beautiful story with me and your wisdom, and there's plenty of it, mate. For a young man, you've got so much wisdom. It's beautiful. And, mate, I get excited. I sometimes watch bits of your stuff and I think, fuck, I should do this, So one day I might join up and come down and do a bit of a course with you. Mate, thank you very much, Jeffrey.
That's for anybody that, anyone that sort of wants to get on board and needs any help in any way, shape or form, have a look at Ron. Even if you followed me to this podcast, check out Ron. If someone resonates with yourself and they're your coffee maker, surround yourself with them. I'm not here to say, hey, work with me, don't work with Ron. It's about who you resonate and who's your coffee maker day in, day out in every single environment that you step into. And once you do that, your attitude's going to determine the attitude you live within your life. So I wish you all the very best, mate.
We want results. We're result driven.
And be a person of your word. Your word is your bond from this point on. And it means that you won't let yourself down. And that's the most important person on this planet. You love 100%. Yourself.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.